You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves POSTCAST, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Grant McAuley and Jake Mastroianni with you. If you're here for the Atlanta Braves. That's your team. And once again, they got themselves into the win column. A 3-0 victory over the Miami Marlins in the first of a 3-game series. Welcome back to the big leagues, Bryce Elder. We got a lot to talk about with his first start of 2024. And, of course, everything else that went into this 3-0 Braves win. Some timely hits, some good work from the bullpen, and we'll get you set up for Game 2 of the series, which comes your way on Tuesday. Before we get started with that, I want to remind you, go ahead, hit that thumbs up right here on this video. Subscribe to the Locked On Sports Atlanta channel on YouTube. Subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. With eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Visit ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Well, Jake, it was good to see Bryce Elder back in the big leagues. I know you and I have been talking about it for a couple of weeks. When is it going to happen? When are the Braves going to pull the trigger on that? The timing was a little bit wonky with the Spencer Strider injury, but finally Bryce Elder gets his opportunity, and man, did he make the most of it first time out.
Yeah, he certainly was waiting on this chance. We've been talking about it for a while, and it couldn't have gone much better than it went for him. Off to a little bit of a shaky start there, but really settled in after that and put together a great outing for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I would categorize that, and I've heard baseball players say this a lot. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And for Bryce Elder, some good fortune in the first inning. Then he really settled in and was able to give the Braves a quality start in this 3-0 victory. 6 2/3 innings of shutout ball for him. We'll talk a lot more about his start a little bit later. Got out of that first inning jam in which he gave up 3 consecutive hits to start the game, one of which was a double that should have scored at least one run. Somehow the Marlins got no runs because Luis Arias was either asleep at the wheel or just took his eye off the ball and had no idea where things were going. Either way, the Braves threw him out at home plate, and after that, it really seemed like when Bryce Elder got in any little bit of trouble, he was able to make the pitches he needed to. But for the most part, he seemed very dialed in and very concise and executed his pitches well and did his thing.
It seemed like the vintage Bryce Elder. I say that and I talk about it. It's like it feels like he's been around a while with the season he had last year and obviously a good run to end the season before that. Still a very young pitcher as Bryce Elder, but a lot of experience under his belt. But it seemed like the Bryce Elder we saw the first half last year a lot. He was able to work himself in and out of jams when he gave up hits. You know, it wasn't a lot of extra base hits in this one. I think he gave up the double to Jazz in that first inning. That was the only extra base hit of the game for the Marlins. Other than that, it just really was some singles here and there. I mean, he gave up some hard hits, but a lot of that on the ground, what you're going to get with Bryce Elder. So, I mean, again, it seemed like the best version of Bryce Elder when he's able to kind of nibble on the edges, get that contact, but typically the weaker contact or at least contact on the ground. And again, kind of settled in after that first inning, getting out of that mess, pitching in and out of trouble. As you said, he had traffic, gave up 8 hits, but the key in this one, no walks. And like I said, just the one extra base hit. So when Bryce Elder's able to do that, not walk many batters, limit it to just some singles here or there, he's going to get those ground balls. He's going to be able to work himself out.
Yeah, and as we talked about a lot last year, especially when he was having success, Bryce Elder, he operates in the margins of the strike zone. I mean, he'll come over the plate when he needs to, but when it comes down to getting ahead of hitters and then kind of getting them to expand their zone, that I think is what makes him so good. And you mentioned, I mean, it does seem like Bryce Elder's been around for a while, and maybe it's the name that kind of throws you off, but he's not going to turn 25 until the middle of next month. So this is a young pitcher who already has 40-plus starts in the big leagues under his belt. And again, when you started thinking about the options in the fifth spot of the rotation, I know that folks are excited about some of the top prospects that may get a look and we may see this year at some point. But Bryce Elder coming back up and doing his thing always seemed to make the most sense given the situation that the Braves were in. No more Spencer Strider in 2024. How are you going to plug that hole in your rotation? Because I don't care who you call up, you're not calling up another Spencer Strider. Those kind of guys are in short supply. But with Bryce Elder, I think figuring out what he needed to, learning what he needed to from 2023 on how to prepare both physically and mentally for the long grind of making 30-plus starts in the big leagues, I think those lessons are going to be invaluable to him. And as we both have said, this is not, like this is a guy who's on the back end of his career. He could be just getting started.
Yeah, he could be. There's still a lot of room for growth. But I do think at this point, and things are certainly able to change, like you said, very young. I think what the path to success is for Bryce Elder. And you mentioned it too, and we've talked about it a lot. it's a lot of movement on his pitches. That sinker, two-seamer, whatever you want to call it, has a very good arm side run on it. The slider has a lot of good break. Got several swings and misses on that. 5 whiffs on 11 swings against that slider tonight. The changeup has good depth on it. When you got all that movement and then you got a four-seamer you could sneak up at the top of the zone every now and then to catch hitters off balance, it really is a good pitch mix, but it's not the higher velocity stuff, so you can't really miss over the plate. Nobody can miss over the plate too much. For somebody like Bryce Elder, if he's getting behind in the count, which he didn't, and early on the Marlins weren't letting him. They were very aggressive against Bryce Elder, but he was able to get ahead in the counts. And when he's able to do that with the movement that he has on his pitches, it allows him to nibble on the edges a little bit here or there. And even if he's giving up contact, as long as it's on a pitch that's either on the edge or maybe just a little bit off, it's typically going to be of the weaker variety. And that's really the path to success for Bryce Elder, to be able to get ahead in counts and then be able to nibble with that slider down and away to righties, or that changeup down and away to lefties. And that really is the recipe for Bryce Elder. When he's on, you're going to see that. And we got to see a lot of that tonight. He was really doing a great job of mixing up those pitches, keeping them on those edges. The only time I really saw it get away from, other than that first inning to begin the game, was in the 4th inning. Started to leave some pitches up a little bit, but then really dialed it back in and was able to work into the 7th inning.
Yeah, he was, and you'll certainly take that. The 6 2/3 innings of shutout ball, no matter what it really looks like, you're happy with the result. But the little adjustments he made in game, I think, were key. I want to stick a pin in the Bryce Elder discussion. We will get back to it in our second segment, but we got to talk about his battery mate, because this guy, Travis d'Arnaud, he's not the only Brave who is making a little bit of history on this night, or at least showing you something you don't see very often. He hit another home run, his 5th in a span of 8 at-bats, a 2-run shot that got the Braves on the board. David Fletcher also knocked in a run as the Braves scored all 3 of their tallies in that 4th inning. I don't know what else we can say after what we just saw over the weekend from Travis d'Arnaud, but he just keeps on keeping on, and the Braves are very happy to have this kind of an option to plug in every single day, as they're without their all-star Sean Murphy. Well, we'll just have all-star Travis d'Arnaud take over.
Yeah, not a bad option there when you lose somebody like Sean Murphy, as we talked about, to have Travis d'Arnaud step in, somebody that, at the very least, pitchers feel very comfortable throwing to him, and he's going to be able to give you that. But he also has a little bit of juice left in the bat. Look, double-digit home runs the past 2 seasons. Even last year, not being a full-time catcher, was able to get to double-digit homers. So he has that kind of pop. Mm-hmm. And in this game, 3 hard-hit balls. And I love the single he had later in the game as well. He talked about the fact that he was really just shortening up his swing a little bit, and you very much saw it in that at-bat that he had. He just dropped the barrel on the ball, drove it into left field. Another ball hit over 100 miles an hour. So it's just the depth of this team that you have right now. Look, it wasn't a great offensive night for this Braves team, at least not by its standards. You didn't have a lot of hits. You didn't have a lot of hard-hit baseballs by this Braves team, but you still have somebody like a Travis d'Arnaud who's batting 6th in your order to come up there and give you a lift, get a home run, and somebody that's hot now. And we talk about it a lot. Look, there's no denying Riley, Olsen. They're struggling at the moment. They are going to have their times where they are carrying this offense. But for right now, Ozuna, Arcia, who had two hits tonight, 2 hard hit balls, and Travis d'Arnaud can step up when others maybe are going through a little bit of a cold stretch.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of this offense. It's something we talk about an awful lot. I mean, yes, you can get beaten by Ronald Acuna Jr. or Ozzie Albies or Austin Riley, Matt Olson. I mean, the guys you mentioned as well, pretty much all up and down this order, you can find somebody that on a given day may be the one who comes through with the big hit. Yeah, there's going to be some guys in this lineup with some gaudy numbers, but guys like Arcia, guys like Travis d'Arnaud, I know Michael Harris II has put up some great numbers. I think he's got even bigger numbers in his future. He had a multi-hit game. That's certainly good to see. And it's going to take contributions, I think, up and down the order from a lot of different guys for this Braves offense to click on the kind of cylinders that it did, all 8, or I guess since there's 9 guys in the batting order, maybe it's 9, but that would be a really weird engine. Be that as it may, the Braves, they're turbocharged. They've got a lot going on under the hood of this offense, and I'm going to stick a pin in all of those automotive puns for now as well. Atlanta once again claims the best record in the National League with this win at 15-6 now on the year through 21 games. And a little bit of history I alluded to earlier. Ronald Acuna Jr. in the first inning, the single, the stolen base, is 190th of his young career. That is the most in the Atlanta era of Braves baseball. So since 1966, a lot of speedy names on that list. He's still got a ways to go for the franchise record of 434. But, Jake, I'm not putting anything past him because Ronald Acuna Jr., much like we were talking about maybe some other guys just getting started. He's right now in the prime of his career. He's got a lot of baseball left in front of him and probably quite a few bases to steal along the way.
Yeah, they said on the broadcast, he's still very young. There's going to be a lot more records that he's going to break in his career. And hopefully he does most of them, if not all of them, in an Atlanta Braves uniform. I know he's going to be here for a long time still yet to come, but just an exciting player, even when maybe he's not at his best right now, as we talk about, still going out there, getting on base to start the game, giving you a chance to score right from the jump almost every time out.
Yeah, I mean, he's an impressive player. That's why he's a reigning National League MVP. That's why that was unanimous voting, and it's why he may be, at any given moment, any given day, the best player in baseball. We got a lot more to talk about here on the Braves Postcast. We'll delve back into what made Bryce Elder so successful, a little bit more about what's been happening in the Braves bullpen, which is starting to really come together as well, and we'll be getting you set for Game 2 of the series, which will be coming your way on Tuesday. All of that as the Braves Postcast continues. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you need speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge wins. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available in the U.S. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends and get the most riches and build the biggest empire. It's a Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies, and there is so much else to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. Download Monopoly Go today, now free in the App Store or Google Play. Well, Jake, the Braves picked up a 3-0 win, a shutout victory, thanks in large part to Bryce Elder's 6 2/3 quality innings. And then you had Pierce Johnson, A.J. Minter, and Bryce Elder Iglesias out of the bullpen to close it out. The Marlins shut out on 8 hits. And, of course, that first inning was where they really squandered their best opportunity. Miami on the day, leaving 6 men on base. Meanwhile, for the Braves, 3 runs on 8 hits, no errors for them. Braves just 1 of 8 with runners in scoring position. They also left a small village on the base paths at 10 left on base as well. But the 3 runs that the Braves got were all they needed for this victory. Bryce Elder picks up the win. He is now 1-0. Ryan Weathers takes a loss, drops to 2-2. Save goes to Bryce Elder Iglesias, his 7th. A.J. Minter with his 3rd hold. That was also another little piece of history. Most holds in the Atlanta era by a relief pitcher belongs to A.J. Minter. I think that's kind of a tip of the cap for what we've talked about a lot on this show, is that each and every year for the last, 6 or so seasons, A.J. Minter has been a huge part of whatever the Braves bullpen is doing.
He has been. And look, he had some ups and downs early in his career. Came up, looked really good, then kind of struggled, went back down, came up. And ever since then, he's pretty much been one of the better relievers in all of baseball, honestly, if you want to look at it. And especially for the Braves, what he's been able to do. And look, the patience he's had, I'm sure he would love an opportunity to close out games. And he's gotten some here or there. But, just because of where the Braves are, they haven't needed that out of him. But he certainly has closer stuff. We'll see what happens after this year. Hopefully he's able to come back with the Braves, but he just has that kind of dominant stuff when he is on. And we've talked about it, that fastball, really working off that with the cutter, which in my mind, I'm labeling it now as a slider. I know it gets the cutter label on it, but it looks more like a slider. And when he's able to throw it and locate it just off the plate and get the swings and misses on it, the changeup that he can mix in. I mean, it's a good pitch mix for him. And he's become, again, I think one of the better relievers in all of baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you could definitely say among the non-closers, you're not going to find too many other pitchers who have been as valuable to their team year in and year out as A.J. Minter has been to the Atlanta Braves. And I know you kind of mentioned it there, but this is last season of contractual control, so perhaps he and the Braves will work out one of those multi-year deals like Joe Jimenez and Pierce Johnson and some of the other relievers have gotten during the Anthopoulos tenure, because I still feel like there's tread on that tire for A.J. Minter, and he's been incredibly invaluable. I talked to him about a week ago in terms of kind of navigating his career and how exactly he's done it. And Travis Darno's name came up, and A.J. Minter told me that, look, one of the reasons he is successful and was able to get his career back on track after an awful 2019 season was what he has built in the partnership with Travis Darno, who has taught him a lot about pitching to his strengths rather than pitching to the hitter's weaknesses. And I think that's maybe an easy thing to look at, or a cliche thing to look at on its face, especially for those of us who don't have to go out there and pitch. But I think it makes an awful lot of sense because, yeah, you can game plan around what other people don't do well. But if it takes away from what you do well, that honestly, I think kind of is a step in the wrong direction, a step backwards. And I think AJ Minter learning that lesson and having somebody behind the plate like Travis Darno he trusts so much. The other thing he told me is, I hardly ever shake this guy off. So when you've got that kind of comfort going on and that kind of confidence, that is going to, I think, build those results. And that's what we've seen from AJ Minter. And a tip of the cap to Travis Darno for being part of that.
Yeah, just another tip of the cap for TDA and what he's done for this team, and somebody that I think whenever his playing days are done, I hope and I foresee that he's probably going to be part of this organization. That's how valuable he's been to this team. And if he wants to be a manager someday, I feel like that is going to be something that is in his future. But AJ Minter, or any pitcher, really, you talk about it. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles for a pitcher when they get up to the big leagues. First of all, is just confidence, to be able to know your stuff is good enough to get outs, and to be able to just lean on what has gotten you here and what makes you so good and what's made you so good. Mm-hmm. And, to be able to have a veteran presence like Travis Darno to tell you that, so I'm sure that meant a lot for AJ Minter and probably a lot of other young pitchers on this Brave staff that have come up.
Absolutely. Young or old, it really doesn't matter. I know Charlie Morton has worked with Travis Darno since they were teammates with the Rays in 2019. So there's a confidence level that goes with a guy like that who's thrown a lot of innings and thrown to a lot of different catchers. And I think the Braves have got themselves a couple of good ones behind the plate. And, Chadwick Tromp has also been able to step in and, be a serviceable third catcher for this team. So they're pretty happy with their situation back there. But clearly, Travis Darno is a big part of that. Talking a little bit more about Bryce Elder, I know we went through the line for him here. 6 2/3 innings, 8 hits, no runs allowed, no walks, which, again, I agree with you. That may be the best thing that you see after the 6 2/3 innings, which certainly the team and the bullpen appreciates. Just the 4 strikeouts, but was able to pitch out of the jams when he needed to. I think this is exactly the kind of outing he needed to just kind of get back reacclimated to the big leagues. Kind of a perfect opponent for him. I'm not trying to beat up on the Marlins a little bit, but Bryce is familiar with his team and some of these hitters. Maybe they're a little bit familiar with him. They were aggressive early on, but making those quick adjustments, getting out of that first inning jam, that I think is just kind of the thing that you can build on, because this may not be his best start of the year, but it was a pretty good start nonetheless.
It certainly was. And again, you do have to look at the opponent here, because we talk about the fact that not a lot of extra base hits. That kind of allows you to throw some pitches over the plate a little bit and hope for the best in some situations. A little bit later in the outing, kind of falling behind some hitters, and it felt like he just kind of put it in there and see what would happen. And the defense behind him was just fantastic on this night as well. And you got to have that with somebody like Bryce Elder, who's going to pitch to contact. Look, it's 8 hits. It's 10 hard hit balls. These things could have gone very differently for him in this outing, but to be able to limit the damage, or in the end was no damage, but able to get out of those jams that he had. First inning, obviously got some help from a rise there. Got 2 double plays in this game. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, you got to give credit to Bryce Elder, I think, and just knowing and making the pitches in big spots that you have to make. So, look, was it a perfect outing? No, but it's also his first major league outing of this season. And so 6 2/3 and no scoreless, he will absolutely take that. But you do have to look at the 8 hits, 10 hard hit balls. There's going to be games where, those are going to find some holes. And there's going to be games where he's probably going to walk a batter or two. And you're going to see results that aren't quite as good. But like I said, for the most part in this game, I felt like he was living on those edges. He was living in that shadow gray area, whatever you want to call it. And that's exactly where he has to stay. And as long as he does that, I think he's going to stick in this rotation for a long time and give the Braves a chance to win every 5th day.
Yeah, and that's really what you need in this kind of outing, pushing yourself into the 7th inning. I mean, this is starting to become a trend for this Braves rotation that is a very good trend, because it not only is it, showing that they're capable of doing their part, it's also helping out this bullpen quite a bit. Looking at what was done in this one, Pierce Johnson with a third of an inning, the punch out, AJ Minter and Bryce Elder Iglesias each with perfect innings and strikeouts each for Minter and for Iglesias in closing this thing out. You start looking at the Braves bullpen now, they've really started to put this thing together. A 3.38 ERA is 4th in the National League, 10th best in Major League Baseball. I know ERA is not the be-all, end-all of stats, but Jake, it does kind of give you an indication that the Braves bullpen, more times than not, is having some pretty good success at run prevention, and that's a pretty big part of what you need a bullpen to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to do. And to make it as stress-free as possible, again, nothing against the Marlins, but once Pierce Johnson came into this game, I felt like it was over. Like it seemed like there was no chance for the Marlins to come back in this one, even in just a 3-0 deficit. But when he's able to come in, get an easy strikeout. AJ Minter got 3 outs on 6 pitches, and then Iglesias coming in, and obviously what he's done and his good work. I mean, it's shaping up to be one of those bullpens that you feel like, especially if you got a 2-3 run lead going to the 7th inning, you're going to feel pretty comfortable, or very comfortable rather, in closing that game out. And it's exactly what you want from your bullpen.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you certainly have options as well, because there's depth, there's quality of depth, and the Braves are utilizing that to a great advantage, I think, over the first 21 games of the season, in winning 15 of those, including their 3-0 win over the Marlins on Monday night at Truist Park. When we come back on the Braves Postcast, we'll talk a little bit more about the big win, a few other good trends for the Braves. We got another update on Ozzie Albies, and we'll get you set for Game 2 of the series. All of that is coming your way on the Braves Postcast. It is playoff time in the NBA and the NHL, and baseball's in full swing as well. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Braves and Marlins will meet for Game 2 of their 3-game series on Tuesday night at Truist Park. A 7:20 first pitch, another night game. And as the Braves got set for this series, we were expecting perhaps to see the lineup of Reynaldo Lopez, Max Fried, and Chris Sale in this one. But with Bryce Elder coming up, able to do a little bit of a reset of sorts on this rotation. We're still going to see Max Fried in Game 2, but Reynaldo Lopez will be throwing the finale of this series. So the Braves are lined up, I think, the way that they want it to be, especially having taken the first game of this series, Jake, for yet another series win. And the Braves are starting to make quite a habit out of that.
And that's what you want. I mean, I know a lot of fans disappointed you didn't get the sweep on Sunday night against the Rangers. It's still a series win against the defending World Series champions, and over 162. That's what you're hoping for. I mean, you want to win as many games as possible, and I get it as a fan. You want to win every single game, even as unrealistic as that might be. But another opportunity to go out against a division opponent, win another series, and to get this first one done with Bryce Elder and not have to really put a lot of stress on your bullpen. And now you go into the next 2 games with Max Fried, who had a really good start against the Marlins, maybe his best start of the year when he faced them the last time. And you got Reynaldo Lopez now on a couple days of extra rest, and he's been the Braves' best starter all year long. Gives you another good chance to win another series, and that's really what it's all about. But excited to see what Max Fried can do. Like I said, really good start against the Marlins last time. Hopefully he can replicate that. But Trevor Rogers, he also was pretty good against the Braves last time. 5 innings, 2 earned.
Yeah.
But hopefully the Braves offense can get to him a little bit more.
Yeah, hopefully the Braves offense will be able to put up a few more than 3 runs in a few of these games in this series and on this homestand for that matter. Atlanta's offense was averaging nearly 6.5 runs per game coming into this one. Hadn't thrown too many shutouts this year. I believe that's just the second one for the Braves pitching staff. But the 3 runs was enough, and you got to see a little bit more power display from Travis Darno in this one. As the Braves get their rotation lined up the way that they want to. I mentioned this a moment ago, but I think it's just worth revisiting. We're finally seeing some consistency from this starting staff. I know outside of Darius Vines not getting into the 6th inning or beyond in that finale against the Rangers, which, by the way, to follow up on what you said, if the biggest thing you're disappointed about is the fact that you're not completing sweeps, I think you're probably still going to be in a pretty good place more times than not if you just keep winning those series. But long story short, this rotation is starting to find itself. Charlie Morton, Chris Sale, Max Fried, I know, has had some ups and downs this year, but he's capable of doing some big things. And I think the Braves are going to be excited to see that. And why not get it started with another good one against the Miami Marlins on Tuesday night? It's Game 2 of the 3-game series. Fried is 1-0 with a 7.71 ERA. A lot of that damage done against him in his first 2 starts of the year. Didn't get out of the first inning against the Phillies. That's well documented. Then he got ambushed by the Arizona Diamondbacks in his first home start. Has pitched much better since then, but still fighting himself. Still, Jake, I think, looking to find that consistency of execution for him because the velocity's there. The pitch mix is there, but it just seems like he's not quite able to execute the way that he wants to and the way that we're used to seeing, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's been very uncharacteristic for Max Fried to begin this year. Like you said, even the last outing against the Astros, I felt like it was one of his poorest outings, and just in terms of command, where he just really couldn't find anything to go to. Now, he did make some big pitches and some big spots to not let it get any worse in that outing, but it just, we're 4 or 5 starts into the season now, and it feels like Max Fried just still isn't quite himself, and hopefully he can get back on track and take steps towards that against the Marlins. As we've talked about, again, I hate to keep piling on them, but just one of the poorer offenses in baseball. So it's a good matchup, as we saw last time he got to face them. So it's another opportunity for him to really continue to just buckle down on that command. Look, the pitches are so good. The movement is so good. He's going to get weak contact. But, when Max Fried is at his best and when he's sharp and he's giving you 6, 7 innings of one or no runs, like we're used to seeing a lot of times from Max Fried, it's when he's able to spot those up and throw it exactly where he wants to. And I believe he'll get back to that. And hopefully that'll begin on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll start seeing some of these games where he's got a half a dozen or 8 strikeouts, maybe a little bit more, where he's just got that curveball working, because I feel like that's still such a dynamic pitch. And there just aren't that many guys that are throwing that kind of old school 12-6 curve. So I enjoy seeing it, but it's not just that breaking ball offering. The slider is typically pretty crisp from him. He gets a lot of great results in that, and he varies his fastball quite a bit and uses different types of that, pitches to all different parts of the zone. I mean, Max Fried is a guy that kind of came up, and maybe his reputation in the minors was more or less a bit of a 2-pitch pitcher, at least as far as his plus pitches were concerned. And all of a sudden, all he's done over the last 6 or 7 years is continue to add pitches to his arsenal, and I think that's what makes him so good. So hopefully he can just get all of those arrows out and be able to fire him the way that he needs to against the Marlins and the way that he did last time against Miami. Maybe there's something to be said for that timing of the right team at the right time for Max Fried. It certainly worked in his last outing against him. A fellow lefty and Trevor Rogers will be on the mound for the Marlins. He is 0-2 with a 3.92 ERA this year. The Braves have certainly seen plenty of him over the last couple of years. A couple of other things before we get out of here. I did want to bring this up because I alluded to it much earlier in the show. More good news on Ozzie Albies. He started hitting on Monday, Jake. He's eligible to come off the injured list at the end of the week. After hearing he'd fractured his toe, I felt like, all right, well, we're probably looking at 3, maybe 4 weeks as a best case scenario here. But it seems like maybe Ozzie Albies is hanging out with Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's got those healing properties. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever the case may be, he certainly looks pretty good out there, already swinging the bat. We knew he was doing defensive drills over the weekend. So the fact that he could come back as soon as this upcoming weekend is pretty incredible when you think about it. The fact that he broke a toe and is already back doing on-field work is just, credit to Ozzie Albies wanting to get back out there working hard. And again, we talked about it yesterday. We'll see how cautious the Braves want to be. Guillorme, David Fletcher. Fletcher had a big hit on this night as well. Another run driven in there to make it a 3-0 game. He and Guillorme have played excellent defense over there at second base. So, I think the Braves are in a position where they can take their time. But if Ozzie's already, swinging the bat and looking good, there's no reason not to bring back the all-star second baseman whenever he's ready.
Yeah, if he can move around the way that he seemed to be moving around when I saw him this weekend, then I think they very well could. One more thing before we get out of here. You'd mentioned the defense that was being played at second base without Ozzie Albies. And I know we talked about Austin Riley and Matt Olson both not really being able to swing the bat lately the way they've wanted to and produce. But, man, I have seen so many times this year where Austin Riley just continues to make play after play after play. And you just feel like it's just watching one of your kids grow up and just get better and better. Because the first time that I saw him down in the minor leagues, a lot of the knock on him was, I don't know if he's going to stick at third. He may have to move across the diamond. He may end up being a DH. You may have to stick him in the outfield. None of that has been the case. This guy has just continued to work and become one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. That's a huge tip of the cap. And to see him making plays the way he was on Monday night, knowing the offense isn't working, it's not following him out in the field, I think that's a huge thing as well.
It is, and he talked about it before the season, the fact he wants to win a Gold Glove, and some people may see that or read that and think, there's no way. You got Brian Hayes, you got Arenado still playing. There's a lot of good defensive third basemen, and I haven't been able to watch them all, but I can't imagine too many third basemen who have played a better defense at the hot corner than Austin Riley this year. The backhand on the short hop he made tonight, the barehanded play that he made, those aren't easy plays, and it's just truly incredible to see how well he's improved at that position. A guy that they came up and just threw him in left field just to get him in the lineup, and now he's playing third base and playing it at a Gold Glove level.
Yeah, we have come a long way since Braves left fielder Austin Riley, that's for sure. And that is going to bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. A 3-0 win for Atlanta on Monday night against the Marlins. They'll be back in action on Tuesday behind Max Fried against Trevor Rogers. 7:21 pitch, battle of lefties as the Braves look to secure another series win. We appreciate you riding along with us. As always, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta right here on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments, share the show with a friend, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. We look forward to catching you throughout the rest of this series. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We will catch you next time. And until then, so long, everyone.